Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Today, I hope to make some sense with regards to Arabic low contrast typeface design. And I feel that the way that I've been thinking about this topic ties in quite neatly with this year's conference theme, Type Legacies, Honoring the Heritage. And I'm very pleased that many of the previous excellent talks have already touched on some points that I also want to relate to. So, yep, let's get right into it. It's generally known that Arabic typography has had a much shorter history than its European counterpart. But to consider this legacy, let us briefly revisit what this actually meant. The first book printed from movable Arabic type was produced in Italy in 1514, but it was not a very convincing piece of work. And for the next 300 years, typography did not take off in the Islamic world. Numerous reasons have been given to explain this, but I'm not going to try answering this question today. Suffice it to say here that Ibrahim Müteferrika is commonly credited as the pioneer of Arabic letterpress printing in the Middle East. His shop operated in Istanbul from 1726 to 1743 and produced 17 titles in moderate print runs. To put this into perspective, it may help to remember everything that happened in Europe between Gutenberg and Müteferrika, and of course, you all know that. From Swineham and Parnaz, Roman type evolved via Genso and Grifo in Italy, changing further through the work of Garamond and Grandjean in France, to finally arrive here in Antwerp with Plantin, and that's just to name the most renowned contributions. Moreover, this only takes us 100 years from Gutenberg, whilst parallel developments included the canonization of the italic style in typography, the adoption of Arabic numerals, and a host of innovations in black letter type. The following centuries were no less eventful for the evolution of Latin script typography, as shown by the work of Van Dyck, Voskens, Fleischmann, and Caslon, contemporaries of Müteferrika. But although Müteferrika introduced printing with movable type to the Muslim world, his efforts did not set in motion a media revolution. After Müteferrika's death, typographic printing stalled in the Middle East until Muhammad Ali of Egypt established the Bullock Press in Cairo in 1820. This is the first publication from Bullock, a result of its connection to Italy. A few years before the opening of the press, Muhammad Ali had sent a certain Nicola Masabiki to Italy to learn the trade. And as you can see from this detail, they were not on top of their game yet. In a curious historical coincidence, at the very time that Masabiki began his training in type founding and printing in Italy, the Caslon foundry released the first Sans-Serif printing type. Now, it seems to me that any designer working on Arabic low contrast type has to keep this in the back of his head. When Arabic typography made its first tentative steps, Latin type making had developed from Gutenberg's 42-line Bible to Caslon's so-called Egyptian in a gradual evolution of some 400 years. By contrast, over the last 15 years, we've seen rapid developments in Arabic type making. It was what I call a case of stylistic leapfrogging. Here, the results of European print history were adopted without having taken the steps that led to them. To be sure, there was a real need for a wider palette of typographic expression. In the early 2000s, the Linotype library of Arabic typefaces, then considered as the benchmark for quality Arabic type, did not contain a single low contrast design for continuous reading. So, to me, this means that today is a pioneering time for the design of Arabic low contrast type. And it also means that there are no established modes to build on, and that the approaches that are put forward today are not set in stone. History is not repeating itself. And one should not assume that the trajectory of Arabic typography needs to follow the one that European typography has taken. Yet in equal measure, one should be careful when applying concepts and modes of the Latin experience to Arabic, which is essentially what we do when we design an Arabic low-contrast type, especially so when it is conceived as an extension to an existing Latin design. If we compare these two classical text typefaces, we see that there are a number of challenges when drawing an Arabic companion for a Latin design. They are mainly related to the different uses of space and the resulting discrepancy of proportions. Arabic requires more vertical space to appear similar in size, but is more economical along the horizontal axis. Most letter forms are connected, and there is a bigger variety of sizes and proportions, resulting in a starkly different impression. These issues are amplified in sans-serifs, as the Latin has an even more homogeneous use of space due to a taller X height and shorter extenders. And it becomes really troublesome in brand design, which is one of the key commercial applications for sans-serif type, where all cap settings are regrettably frequent. Adding questions related to contrast, style, and legibility to these issues, it becomes apparent that the challenges are not trivial. So let us look at some of the ways in which this task has been approached. Besides the obvious influence of the Latin model, designers seeking solutions to these issues have also been looking at the rich past of the Islamic manuscript tradition. And through this quest to design new contemporary Arabic type, the so-called Kufi style has seen a veritable reincarnation. Its thick, largely monolinear strokes, its static, constructed impression, and its apparent malleability seem to suggest it as a model for low-contrast type design. Before the 21st century, a few Kufi-inspired typefaces existed, but they were confined to the display and ornamental sections. But more recently, this has changed, as some designers have started to incorporate Kufi elements into type for general text typography. In this line of work, Nadine Shahin's designs for monotype have to be mentioned, as she explored this concept in some length. Starting with Frutica Arabic in 2007, Nadine developed a range of Kufi-inspired designs. Neue Helvetica Arabic was published in 2010, swiftly followed by Univers Next Arabic and Din Next Arabic, both published in 2011. Also, Akko was published the same year, and in this poster by Nadine, it is shown below Din Next Arabic, Univers Next Arabic, and Sony SST Arabic from 2013. In related lines of work, one ought to mention some of the typefaces by Alet and Murad Boutros, whose work began in the 1970s with Letraset dry transfer lettering. The 2008 Tansik, in its modern and traditional variants, demonstrates a strong influence of Kufi proportions, although it could, of course, equally be attributed to a matching of the Latin X height. Some of Pascal Zogby's typefaces also show a prominent influence of Kufi features, as seen in his design Bukra. Originally released in 2007, it was expanded over the years and published as a 94 style family in 2017. A common feature that Bukra shares with all of the mentioned designs are hybridized letter forms that draw freely from various sources. None of the shown typefaces consistently use Kufi shapes and principles, as they blend elements and characteristics from various writing styles, as well as from typewriter fonts, with notions of Kufi aesthetics. However, this amalgamation ensues as much from necessity as from choice, for there's hardly anyone alive today who can read Kufi. And here I'm also referring to native Arabic speakers. To appreciate this, it pays off to read what one of the foremost experts on early Arabic script, François de Roche, has to say. In his seminal text, The Abbasid Tradition, he writes, "Most Western histories of Islamic calligraphy have been based on information found in later Arabic, Persian, and Turkish sources, in which one word, Kufi, was used to encompass all the early scripts. This was no doubt because the calligraphic tradition that had produced the script described as Kufi had been dead for some time before these sources were compiled, and Qur'ans written in these scripts could no longer be read without great effort. As I mentioned before, due to the blending with Naskh and other styles, contemporary Kufi typefaces can of course be read. Nonetheless, and this is the point that seems important to me, we are reminded that the use of historical models calls for some caution. And we're also reminded that the design of an Arabic low contrast companion is not as straightforward as the extensions of so-called extensions of the best-selling typefaces seem to suggest. Indeed, some need for an explanation is also apparent in Monotype's promotion of its Arabic catalog. Here a distinction is made between modern and traditional headline and text typefaces, and most Kufi-inspired low-contrast designs fall into the modern headline category. This description is further qualified, noting that several of those listed under headline could work well in short runs of text. Now, for me, this raises just one question. Would we apply the same description, a headline type that could work well in short runs of text, to the original Latin designs of Din, Helvetica, Univers, and Frutiger? When I first explored Arabic low contrast type in 2007, I hadn't articulated these thoughts yet, but I wanted to pursue a different strategy. It was closer to established models of Arabic typemaking, and thus in line with the overwhelming majority of Arabic typography, which is based on the Naskh writing style. Influenced by the 1990s humanist Sans-Serif genre, I sought to develop a more dynamic low-contrast design that generally followed Naskh proportions and principles. Initially conceived as a low-contrast companion to my Nassim for a custom job, the project didn't come through, and so it was left in a digital drawer. A few years later, I added some weights too, but it never arrived at the publishable stage. And when I began this type, I knew of only one Arabic low-contrast design that followed a similar approach. It was an unfinished project by Tim Holloway called Markazi. It had been selected at the Bukvaraz type design competition organized by ATypI in 2001 and published in Language Culture Type, that you can see here, in 2002. To me, it always seemed a shame that this pioneering and award-winning design did not get published, that is, until last year. Initiated by Jerry Leonidas as a joint project of the University of Reading and Google, Borna Izetpana and Fiona Ross developed Tim's design into a full family and released it with an open source license. Florian Runge designed the Latin companion to the project, and what could better demonstrate the open questions in Arabic low-contrast design than the decision to pair Markazi with a Latin serif typeface? Whilst Markazi stood out 15 years ago, more recently there's an increasing number of designs and releases that adopt related approaches to the design of Arabic low-contrast type. Since about 2015, a range of Naskh-based designs were published by various foundries, and in their combination, they may suggest a change of thinking. Whereas highly constructed skeletons, static baseline alignment, and proportions that emphasize the y-axis were a popular route 10 years ago, today we see more fluid and expressive designs that have greater variety of vertical alignment. And the following selection of examples has no claim to comprehensiveness. I would like to start with Calibri Arabic, designed in 2015 by Mamoun Sakal as a companion to Lucas de Groot's Latin design. Mamoun's oeuvre covers an impressively broad range of styles and concepts, and with Calibri, he has created an Arabic typeface that embodies some of the changes that I've been referring to. Calibri Arabic is decidedly contemporary, yet it clearly reflects the Naskh writing style in a low-contrast design. It appears conventional. It's decided to do that. It's almost normal. But if we compare it to Lucas de Groot's the Sans-Arabic, the difference in approach is thrown into stark contrast. Whilst the Sans and Calibri share similarities of approach, and clearly demonstrate the hand of the same author, the dissimilarity between the Arabic companions could hardly be greater. Around the same time that Calibri Arabic was being developed, I had the opportunity to work on conceptually related projects for Rosetta and Darden Studio. Scholar Sans-Arabic, which Rosetta published in 2016, tried to achieve a current look for an Arabic typeface that was intended for continuous reading. Taking Nasr as its starting point, I aimed to create an Arabic companion that had conventional workhorse qualities in a style suitable for recent humanist sans. Not as warm and more reserved than Calibri, it had to negotiate slightly narrow proportions as well as a wide range of weights. The aim of the project for Darden Studio was also a low-contrast companion to an established Latin design. It was managed by Eben Sorkin and developed with the input of John Hudson, and I'm delighted I can present it here, probably for the first time in public. Joshua Darden's Omnes is one of the more expressive sans designs, but it never turns into a display face, maintaining a calm and orderly rhythm throughout its many weights. The Arabic companion had to reflect these qualities, combining a fairly conventional structure with cuddly bolds and somewhat stiffer lightweights. Walking the fine line between text and display typography proved challenging, as the roundness should not turn the design into a sausage font, and the structure had to avoid a calligraphic impression despite its roots in Nasr. Similar challenges were met by other designers in similar ways, as the following selections show. In 2016, the Indian Type Foundry released an Arabic companion as part of its Kohinoor multi-script project. Designed by Bahman Islami, it is another exponent of current Arabic low-contrast typefaces that follow the Nasr model, but successfully dress it in a contemporary style. It complements an extensive multi-script family in which it maintains a fair degree of independence. Christian Sarkis' designs, Canon and Teshrin, both published in 2017, also show some of the issues that arise with the expansion of Arabic typographic voices. Canon and Teshrin are built on the same skeleton, but the latter has a fully rounded stroke. And I imagine that it took Christian quite some ingenuity to develop type forms that remained legible whilst maintaining consistency in weight and style. But one of my favorite recent releases is Asa El-Medin's Adel Sans-Arabic, which was published by Type Together in 2017. It features a wide range of weights and is firmly rooted in Nasr. Lively, well-proportioned and drawn, it exhibits many of the potential qualities of this genre in the making. Looking at the shown examples of recent Arabic designs on a scale of expression, we see that the approach that I talked about is mainly used when designing companions for some of the more dynamic and organic Latin types. Adel Sans would be towards the dynamic end, and Calibri possibly right at its maximum. By contrast, Canon and Omnes would be situated closer to the static end. However, none of them is at the static extreme. So how would this approach work for grotesque or more geometric sans? In 2015, I was given an opportunity to try that when the Line 2 Type Foundry approached me to devise an Arabic companion for Laurens Brunner's Akkurat. Akkurat is a clear and precise contemporary sans that evokes the Swiss tradition. It works well in text and conveys a warmth that you can't find in many other sans-serif of the same genre. Against this background, I devised something that seeks to combine principles of Nasr-based design with a dress that does justice to its Latin companion. My goal was to design an Arabic that gave a comparably structured impression, echoing the calm and friendly tone of Laurens' design, without unduly compromising conventional shapes and patterns. Although I had completed it by 2015, Line 2 did not publish Akkurat's Arabic companion until now, and I'm honored to be able to show it in very good company today and to say that it will be released very soon. In early 2017, this project attained another aspect, as Line 2 commissioned me to conceive an Arabic companion to its Circular, which is also designed by Laurens Brunner. So further to the challenges described before, the two designs had to be differentiated within the Lang2 library, whilst also conveying their shared origin and translating the apparent design differences. Its heaviest weight pushed the envelope for stroke weight. And translating the texture of the thinnest weight, marked by generous counters and tight spacing, was not straightforward either. As Circular Arabic was nearing completion in September 2017, Commercial Type released Graphic Arabic, a companion to Christian Schwarz's typeface that was designed by Wael Morcos and Khadja Gapelian. This was encouraging to see, as they had also chosen to base the Arabic for a relatively static Latin design on Nasr. Interestingly, though, the design by Wael and Khadja includes many ligatures that I omitted, and is decidedly more expressive than Circular Arabic, showing the range of possible interpretations for a low-contrast Nasr. Finally, earlier this year, my collaboration with Line2 was renewed for another time as Aurel Sack commissioned me to develop an Arabic companion for his Brown family. Conceiving Arabic typeforms for this austere and idiosyncratic design was not easy, as it questioned ideas that I had had about Arabic type design. Today I can say that this task made for a particularly rewarding experience that allowed me to expand my repertoire of stylistic expression. And this is how the three families for Line2 compare to each other. But let me wrap up. Arabic typemaking has seen quite a dramatic evolution in the first years of this century, and its apparent potential is starting to bear fruit. Whilst the field remains in flux and will undoubtedly experience further growing pains, the increasing breadth of approaches, the talent of young designers, and the maturing of discussions about the field make me quite confident in saying that the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Titus.